Muhammad Shahbaz, Professor Dr. Leopold Dana, Professor Dr. Raja Rasia, Professor Dr. Jiri Yoromir Klemesh, Professor Dr. Ayuba Aminu, Dr. Muhammad Imran Qureshi. Please take your seats. Thank you. My name is Aliyu Isa Chikaji, and I am your MC for today. Professor Dr. Amran Rasli, Asia International Conference Chair. Professor Dr. Muhammad Shahbaz, Professor at Energy and Sustainable Development, ESD, Montpellier Business School, Montpellier, France. Professor Dr. Leopold Dana, Research Professor at Montpellier Business School and Marie Curie Fellow at Princeton University. Professor Dr. Raja Razia, a Professor of Economics and Technology Management at the Faculty of Economics and Administration, University of Malaya. Professor Jiri Joromis is a professor and head of Sustainable Process Integration Laboratory, SPIL, NETME Center, Faculty of Mechanical Engineering, Brunei University Technology. Professor Dr. Aminu Ayuba, President of the Academy of Management, Nigeria. Dr. Muhammad Qureshi, Director, Connecting Asia. Professor Dr. Adil from Pakistan. Senior Management Officers, distinguished speakers, professors, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to Asia International Conference 2018. It is such pleasure seeing everyone here. I hope that everyone had a good experience getting to this beautiful island of Langkawi. Ladies and gentlemen, today's event is divided into 4 parts. First, we will have a welcoming speech by the conference chair in person of Professor Amran Rasli, keynote speeches by Professor Dr. Muhammad Shahbaz, Professor Dr. Leopold Dana, Professor Dr. Raja Rasia, Professor Dr. Jiri Joromir, Professor Dr. Ayuba Aminu, and Dr. Muhammad Imran Qureshi. The second part will be sessions in different groups and different categories. The session chairs, judges and coordinators will be in their various allotted rooms to ensure that both presentations and Q&A sessions are not only educating, smooth, but also exciting. Ladies and gentlemen, the third part is 2 special sessions which will be relevant to many of us here. The first is Strategic Forum, which will be a platform where you can engage with some of our speakers to discuss issues on higher education and the synergy between university and society. The second will be Editors Forum. We will be having the chief editors to discuss issues related to publication matters. So please join us for these 2 very special sessions. And the fourth part will perhaps be the favorite part to most of us. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the part where we will unwind, sharing great food together with even greater company. Ladies and gentlemen, the fourth part, which is the last, will be the AIC 2018 Gala Dinner. Ladies and gentlemen, everything has a beginning, and our beginning begins right here, right now. One of our very first speakers is an internationally recognized intellectual giant of our time, one of the most outstanding professors I have ever known. A researcher par excellence, he had his PhD in society, business, and globalization from Roskilde University, Denmark, former Dean of Faculty of Management and Director, Innovation and Commercialization Center, University Technology, Malaysia. He has graduated well over 50 PhDs. He's been invited as a visiting professor to universities within Malaysia, Southern Australia, Hyderabad in India, Harbin University in China, Lithuania, Taiwan, Indonesia, Pakistan, and many others. He is currently serving as the Vice Chancellor of Sumait University, Chukwani, Zanzibar, as a Vice Chancellor. Ladies and gentlemen, to deliver the opening speech, please welcome the Conference Chair of AIC 2018 and the Vice Chancellor of Sumait University, Zanzibar, Professor Dr. Amran Rasli.
And a very good morning to everyone. As mentioned by my illustrious colleague, Brother Aliyu, Dr. Aliyu, I'm now based in Africa, so that's why I'm wearing like this. Not here to recite the dua, okay, even though I may look like the Mufti, okay. I'm just here to share with you what we do. Meaning when we talk about Asia conferences, Connecting Asia and so on, what we do is we try to connect all the researchers, okay, academics, experts in various fields together at a common platform. And for this reason, most of you are here. And we've been doing this for the past 5 years odd. It started off with just Dr. Imran and I, somebody with a crazy idea, me, and somebody who believed in this crazy idea, Dr. Imran. and what happened was, over the years, okay, we started very small. And we grew and grew and grew, and now we are doing here in Langkawi. And this is the point where I feel is the apex, because all this while we were doing conferences at the university. You know, very safe, very comfortable, but to do in a resort island like Langkawi, in this nice convention center here, okay, and seeing the number of participants who are with us right now, to me this is a great accomplishment. So I applaud the organizing committee, the group, worked hard, okay, to ensure that this conference is a success. At any rate, okay, I'm happy to see familiar faces as well, especially among the keynote speakers, sorry. Some are very familiar, we run into each other many times over, as well as the participants. Many are from Indonesia, whom I've met before in the past, okay. I'm very happy to see all of you again, and I hope that we will still be meeting up again in the future, because we are looking at Connecting Asia to do things differently from now on. Okay, from now on we may be going abroad, we may be going to Indonesia again. We have offers to go to Oman, okay, and other parts of the world. So, and I guess this is inevitable in life. When you start something, along the way there'll be other people who will copy, okay, try to do the same thing. So we see now competitors replicating our business model, and for that reason we have to change and explore okay, other things so that we will always be ahead of the others, and also at the same time giving the best quality to all the participants, inshallah. Okay, I'm not going to say much because we are behind time. We've got many other keynote speakers who will share their thoughts. So let me conclude here by wishing everyone a happy conference, and in Zanzibar we will say Hakuna Matata. Okay? Inshallah. Assalamualaikum. Thank you.
That has been the conference chair, Professor Dr. Amran Rasli. Thank you so much, Prof. The next dignitary will be speaking to us, and he is the chair, Professor at Energy and Sustainable Development, ESD, Multiplier Business School, Multiplier France. He is a former Principal Research Officer at ComSats, Institute of Information Technology, Lahore, Pakistan. He had a PhD in economics from National College of Business Administration and Economics, Lahore, Pakistan. He has published over 300 papers with a cumulative impact factor of 425 so far. He is among the world's top 15 authors in economics category as compiled by Ideas, and among the top 5 authors in economics category in developing countries declared by David McKenzie, Chief Economist, World Bank. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me to welcome Professor Dr. Muhammad Shahbaz.
Assalamu alaikum and very good morning. I would like to pay thanks to Dr. Imran for connecting me with Connecting Asia. So, I think this guy, he explained very well about me. So, simply Muhammad Shabad and serving in Monthly Business School as a chair. So, title of my story, you can read with me very well. It's about green energy and economic growth. Simply, I think most of people here, if they are familiar with energy economics, so this story simply is about the energy growth nexus. Okay. Why we are actually moving again to this nexus? If we have looked at the econometrics, so then you see many studies on time series, panel, and cross-sectional. But all the findings, according to our assessment, they are just talking about the constant relationship between the variables. As we know, in the different countries, governments of different countries, they implement the different energy, environmental, and economic policies. So, implementation of these policies, they change the relationship between the variables. So, we are just trying to catch how much variation or variability exists between the variables, a relationship of the variables. So let's see with me. Okay. So no need to explain how energy consumption it affects economic growth. Just I think you should read the paper written by Ilhan Oster, published in Energy Policy 2010, a literature survey on energy growth nexus. So then you will find the 4 hypotheses. Okay. First is the feedback that shows both variables they affect each other. Okay. And it indicates the important role of energy in production function. So then there's a growth hypothesis. Same thing they are saying. Other two are neutrality and then the conservation hypothesis. So for the last 2 hypotheses, they say if you reduce the energy consumption, it will not affect your economic growth. But today, this is not our business to discuss regarding the energy growth nexus. But we should see if we have look at the literature. So I think you should go back to the World Development Report published in 1991, where they mentioned the issue of environment. Okay, and after that there was international agreement of just happened in Japan in 1997. So after 1997, we see world has changed and they are thinking about the quality of life, they are thinking about the green economy, they are thinking about the environmental quality. Okay. So why actually this happens? You can see some issues which force the world to think about the green energy. What are those issues? Global setbacks. You may say a global financial crisis and other crisis, Asian crisis. You can also talk about that. So due to some dependence of countries on conventional energy sources like coal and other thermal, these kind of things. But if we talk about the conventional energy sources, so it simply means they emit too much CO2 emissions, which is not, I think, good for our health and quality of life. So then you can see some other things which are also force the world to think about the green energy sources. What are those factors again? The preserved supply, green production, energy commodity prices, then the fluctuation, biodiversity and climate change. Okay, so these are the issues which you can find still in the literature. So they have impact to move for the other alternative energy sources to get the sustainable economic growth. So from where this green energy is coming? It's simply the name of renewable energy sources. And what are those sources? You can see wind, biomass, solar, hydro, wood, waste, and geothermal. Okay. People say that these energy sources they bring up with zero CO2 emissions, but the case is not like that. Okay. So why we have chosen the G7 countries? It again in the literature. Okay, they are considered the world leaders. Okay, and you can see from the statistics that the Canada is leading, and which is just getting 22% its energy needs from the renewable energy sources. Then by Germany, Italy, Germany, France, USA, UK, and Japan. But if we see on the massive investment in renewable energy sources, it is by the USA. So there are two views in the literature. Some people say, yes, we should invest in the renewable energy sources. Okay, but some people say if you don't invest in the renewable energy sources, if you are focusing on the non-renewable energy sources, it is also helpful in reducing the poverty. Okay, so investment in non-renewable energy sources also creates jobs and it stimulates your economic growth as well. But on the other way, if we read one paper written by Nicholas Burgess, he says, yes, when you shift your economy from the conventional energy sources to the renewable or green energy sources, it has some kind of damaging cost. Why? They say till today it is difficult to store the renewable energy sources and it takes too much time when you shift your economy from conventional energy sources to green energy sources. Okay, so it's a lengthy process. So these are two views you will find in the literature. Okay, why we are moving to this idea? As I told you, if we see one paper published in Econometrica in 2018 by the Mueller and Watson, they say when you use the time series data, let's say we are using time series data in this study from 70 to 2017. Okay, according to the dynamic nature of the relationship between the variables, this relationship changes with the passage of time. Okay, and in time when we talk about the time series, so then I don't think so we cannot we can ignore the role of to problem. We can ignore the role of non-stationarity of the variance, and we can ignore the role of co-integration and causality. But here is our purpose basically to see in what confidence intervals. In stats, if we see, so we have three levels of significance: 10%, 5%, and 1%. Okay, but here what we have done, we have estimated our coefficient. Okay, within the 90% confidence interval, which is called the high pass, and then we have used the 67% confidence interval, which is called the lower pass. Okay, and this approach works very well, and it gives you the coefficient of the relationship between the variables between these two high and lower pass. And on the other side, I mean, okay, so this is the time to discuss about the big data. But the question is, if any country it doesn't have the long time series data, what should we do? So in that manner, this approach works well if you have the small sample size data. So you can see the third advantage. Okay, I don't need to discuss this because here you can see. We find this problem. Sometimes what happen? Some of the variables they are stationary at the level. Some of the variables they are stationary at the first difference. Okay, so if you have the mixed order of integration, or if you find your all the variables stationary at first level or first difference, then estimation of the coefficient between the high and lower pass is also suitable. I always go for this question when I go for the time series analysis. I mean, a lot of paper published on the panel data. The concern is, okay, if we are talking about the European Union, if we are talking about the Gulf region, if we are talking about the African region, do all the countries implement the same economic policies? I don't think so. Or all the countries they have the same past background? I don't think so. All these countries they have the same culture. Little bit, but no. Okay. In such differences, how is possible to do the panel study? Okay, and then to study, suggest the same level, a similar kind of policy implication. And who is responsible? Who will force the regional countries to apply these economic policies to improve the macroeconomic situation or performance of the macroeconomic variables? Okay. So I think these differences, they just force us to do the country level studies, and when you do the country level studies, then you would be, I think, in a better situation to give the better suggestions following your comprehensive empirical analysis. Okay, so we have used the world development indicators, okay, to collect our data. So just we have used the two variables. So energy consumption, renewable energy consumption per capita, and then other is the real GDP per capita. So definition of both variables you see under their different units is same. So the time period is 1975 to 2017. Okay. So here we see in the third column we have converted our data set from annual to quarter frequency. Okay, using the quadratic mesh sum method. So when we talk about the quarterly data, then I think the question about the seasonality is there. The uniqueness of this approach, if you convert your annual data into quarter frequency by using the quadratic mesh sum method, so it reduces not eliminates, but it reduces the seasonality problem when we transform a point-to-point conversion of the data. Okay, so come to the results, because I have not shown the equations due to the limitation of time. So you will see we have presented the descriptive statistics where you can find the mean, median, and other things. And you have, if we see, here we have applied the Jarek-Bera statistics. Okay, just to check the normality of the data, either because this is the first step when we go for the time series analysis, that we should check the normal distribution of the data. If we have the normal distribution of the data, then we should go for the linear empirical analysis. And if our data set is not normally distributed, then we should go for the non-linear approaches. Okay, so then we have applied the two tests. Okay, just to check the stationarity level of the variables, because there is a question always there in the literature. If our variables we found or we find at level, so should we go for the long-run relationship or short-run relationship, or for the co-integration or causality? And if our variables we find they are integrated at first difference, then what should we do? So here we have the look at the two tests that we have applied here. First is simple ADF test. So that just indicates all the variables. Two variables for each country. They are integrated at first difference. The question is, when you apply the economic or environmental or energy policies in the economy, they change the trend of your variables. Okay, that is called the structural break. So if you see the graphical picture, okay. So I have the soft copy. You can I will give them there, so you can take and read it. So we see sometimes what happens. The graph shows that your variable has some fluctuations. Okay. So to cover this point, we have applied another test that is called the Kim Perron. Okay, so it is available in EVIS 9.1. So you can go and just open the EVIS and you will have this test. Okay, so you can see some time points are given here. Okay, for both variables, real GDP per capita and the green energy per capita. These points they show, okay, within something significant happened with this variable due to the implementation of energy, economic and environmental policies. So they are called the structural breakpoints. Okay, so here we have applied the correlation. This is the lower pass and this is the higher pass. Okay, but we have estimated at 90% confidence interval. So here you can see this is the lower pass and higher pass, but this is we estimated at the 67% confidence interval. You can see all the things are mentioned below the note. So this is our correlation. So it shows that there is a positive correlation between green energy consumption per capita and real GDP per capita in the case of Canada. So you can see in the case of France, Germany, Italy and Japan, then UK and then USA. Very interesting. According to the second slide, USA is considered among the top, doing massive investment for the renewable energy sources. But the correlation between the green energy and real GDP per capita is negative. The reason, 67% of energy demand in USA is covered by coal and natural gas consumption. So I think this is the reason. So here we have long run regression projections. Again, we have estimated it at 90% confidence interval, then the 67%. In the case of Italy, you can see the coefficient, beta coefficient is high. So it shows, Italy has already started to transform its economy from conventional to green energy sources. So it shows there is no damaging cost. As I mentioned you, when you transform your economy from conventional to green energy sources, so it's a lengthy process, costly process, and they have the damaging cost. So then you can see after the Italy, we have the bigger coefficient for France, okay. Then the lower coefficient for UK, for Japan you can see, and again because correlation coefficient is negative, so then the coefficient of beta is also negative. So this is your standard error, okay. So just you divide your coefficient on the standard error, you will get the t values of your variables. Okay, this is the most interesting point in this paper. It tells you, this figure tells you three things, okay. First, the distribution of difference of your variable, then the distribution of the original variable, then we have done the projections here, okay. If we see this dotted line, so it's a growth rate of real GDP per capita, and you can see the fluctuations, and these fluctuations shows the presence of the structural breakpoints over the sample period of time. Then you see the blue line, okay. It is just the projection of a GDP per capita, and you can see this is the red line. This is the long run projection based on the information of the variables we have. Okay. So same is case for the green energy per capita. So you can see this is the projection, okay, between the two variables, green energy consumption per capita and real GDP per capita. If these lines are closer, okay, so we say, okay, whatever the relationship is positive or negative, no problem. If these lines are closer, then relationship is strong. If these lines are not closer, then relationship is weak. So with the passage of time, you can see time period is just mentioned here. You can see, in what period the relationship is closer and in what period the relationship is weaker between the variable. And the last figure here again we have 2 points. You can see the weak circle, then you can see the dark circle. Weak circle is showing the distribution of the coefficient with the variables over the sample period of time, and then the bigger circle, they are showing the distribution of the coefficient between the green energy consumption per capita and the real GDP per capita. Okay, so due to a short of time, I need to run fast. Okay, I just skip the other slide, and we just come to the main conclusion of the. Okay, in the case of USA, we have the negative relationship. Okay, except USA, for all the other countries, the relationship between green energy consumption and economic growth is positive. But you will see, okay, for all the countries, the relationship between both variables is stronger after the financial global crisis. Okay, just happened in 2007, I think. So 3 points we just mentioned in the form of policy implications. Okay, the countries who are focusing to transform their economy from conventional energy sources to the green energy sources, they should keep in mind about the damaging cost. Okay, and they should focus for doing investment to explore these energy sources to maintain their economic growth for the longer period of time. That's it. Thank you very much.
So much, Professor Dr. Muhammad Shahbaz, for your speech. May I recognize the presence of Associate Professor Datin Dr. Hasna Zainuddin from University Malaya. Thank you for coming. Professor Dr. Hazur Muhammad Sabir from Government College University, Faisalabad, Pakistan. Thank you for coming, sir. Our next speaker for the day is a renowned researcher from New Zealand. He had his PhD in 1994 from McGill University, Canada. He is research professor at Montpellier Business School and Marie Curie Fellow at Princeton University. He formerly served at the University of Canterbury and prior to that as visiting professor of entrepreneurship at INSEAD and deputy director of international business MBA program at Nanyang Business School in Singapore. He has published 36 books and hundreds of articles, peer-reviewed articles, mainly in the areas of economic development, entrepreneurship, and issues of island economies. He will deliver a speech this morning on revisiting the unit of analysis in business research. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Dr. Leopold Dana.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm very thankful for the opportunity to be here. So I have warm thanks to extend to the organizers and to all of you who make it possible. Because as we heard today, this is an up-and-coming international conference with great success. And it's nice for you to be able, 20 years from now, to say, I came here 20 years ago. And so it's wonderful to see everybody, and I'm very thankful to all of you. So I'm a researcher and you're researchers, and research changes over time. And so I thought I'd share with you the unit of analysis of research. Because once upon a time, research was easy. Today, research is becoming important, and it's also not as easy as before. So I'd like to thank you for being here to share some ideas together about how to make research easy for you in the future. Very simple presentation. We talk about the past, the present, and the future. And I want to suggest to you that future research should reflect on the future. But it's very funny. As a journal editor, that's not what I see. I I get papers which are metaphorically explaining that they can invent the wheel, or that one day we can replace the donkey and have an automobile. And so the people sending those papers, I just wonder where they're writing from. Once upon a time, business was easier than today. You had the mom and pop operations that were local. And you had international business being conducted by larger firms. If you were a mom and pop guy, you did something small, and if you wanted to go international, you had to be big. It was very easy. But today, if I'm a small guy, I don't have to sell sandwiches. I can, but I can also have a web page and sell computer services. I can do software development from my office in my little country and sell it to another office far, far away. I don't have to go there. I don't have to be there. Technology allows the little guy to do business internationally like was never before possible. See, if you look at the international business journals, Journal of International Business Studies, for example, what's the unit of analysis? The firm, usually large, and doing international business. What is the macroeconomic unit of analysis? Countries. That's the way business was, and that's the way research was. And in some cases, that's the way research still is for those who missed the boat. So I'm here today to help you not miss the boat. It used to be that no matter what theory you followed, to do international business, you needed money. Money to own land, to own factories, to have employees overseas. There was a head office in London or somewhere else. There were branch offices, but it all cost money. So let's summarize what I said so far. I explained to us how business was, and in fact, research was very easy under that scenario. Let's look now at entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is a new social science compared to economics. Compared to many others, it's still evolving. Traditionally, it focused on financial capital. Today, we've evolved, we have social capital, we have cultural capital, but entrepreneurship used to be about money. So, let's have a look. Management research focuses on individuals, a manager of a company, a family, a firm. And methodologically, it's easy to interview an individual. It's easy to send a form to an individual or to an office. You can send people, and research has been very easy given existing methodologies. In other words, we used to have a horse, we went on the horse, we took the horse places, and the horse took us places. Now we have the airplane, we can go faster. Some of us are using it, and some of us are still talking about horses. Horses are great, but for publications, you might want to be in the avant-garde of business as opposed to how it was. I mentioned capitals earlier. Capital is something that allows you to move ahead. You can have financial capital. That's something we all know for a long time. But in 1963, Becker told us there was human capital. And all of us here are engaged in human capital. Human capital production and human capital sharing. And for that, he got the Nobel Prize. And this opened the door on emphasizing not only how much money you have, or how much land you have, or how many cows you have, but what you know. Because what you know allows you to make better with the money you have, the land you have, the cows you have, the horses you have. But more recently, Pierre Bourdieu told us that who you know is also important. If I have a lot of money and a lot of education, but I'm not at the right place at the right time, it's not as good as somebody with less education who happens to be the brother of the Queen. Because being the brother of the Queen, you don't need a PhD. You still get things done. So not all of us can be the brother of the Queen. But sometimes it's very convenient to meet people who have influence. In research, much is about knowing the right people. You make an application for research money, who's going to read it? People who decide whether to give you the research money or not. So there's an element of person in there. It's not only pure physics. You know, if I drop this, it's going to fall down at 9.8 meters per second squared, whether I like it or not. And it always will if I drop it from here. If I drop it on the moon, it's different, but from here, it's the same. But if I make an application for a grant or for a conference or for something in research, it's not always the same. Somebody might not like my name, might not like me, might not like that I was married to his sister before. Or somebody might remember that I did something nice for them. Because research is a community. You know, we look at a journal and some people think, oh, it's a bunch of paper stuck together. But a journal is a community. How do you get a paper accepted in a journal? By participating as a member of the community. A journal publication is like a conversation at a cocktail party. You go to a party, and I toast to your health, and how are things, and we talk. Somebody comes in, and he interrupts. If he talks about what we're talking about, we like to talk to him. If he talks about something we don't know, we don't like, or we don't understand, we don't like to include him. He's interrupting. A journal is the same thing. People tell me, look, I wrote this wonderful paper. To which journal should I submit it? Can you read it for me and tell me? And I tell them, I don't have to read it to know which journal you submitted to. Which journal you submitted to, everybody knows. You submit to the journal that's most in your reference list. If you have a paper with 300 references, and there's no reference to ET&P, well, don't send to ET&P. If you have a paper with 100 references, and 40 of them are academy or management related, well, a good chance it's going to go there. But never waste your time to send a journal, to send a journal article to a journal that you're not even citing, because right away the editor says, well, they don't even read our journal, why should we publish them? It's a community. You invite me to your birthday party, I invite you to my birthday party. You tell me you have a great party without me? You want to come to mine? I'll think about it. It's about people. And so, Bourdieu tells us, what you know doesn't hurt, but who you know is even more important. Then we look at the concept of cultural capital, because who you know has also a culture with values. It's good to be an entrepreneur, it's good to be a professor, it's good to be whatever they decide it's good to be. So, everybody here on Facebook? You all have 100 friends? Well, imagine if every one of your 100 friends also has 100 friends. That means there's 10,000 people related to your little circle of 100 friends. If your 100 friends invite you to a party with all their friends, there's 10,000 people there. And if each of those has 10,000 people. Well, it doesn't take long to have 1 million people. We used to think 1 million people was a lot of people. But if you do the math, very easy to access people. Very easy for you to tell people that you're a nice guy or not. Very easy to make people like you. Very nice to make people scared of you or not happy with you or not like you. So Stanley Milgram decided to do an experiment and found that within 1 degree you can find 100 people. 2 degrees you can find 10,000 people. Well, he suggests that with 6 degrees of separation you can contact anybody in the world. That makes every one of you famous. That means every one of you do something nice, people know about it. And every one of you do something not nice, people also know about it. So, of course, nobody knows 7 billion people. But you know your local cluster, and other people know people in their local cluster, and then you have bridging ties. We have our chairman, who has a cluster here and a cluster in Africa. And he can go back and forth and bridge. So the world today, if you have a tablet or a web page or access to an internet cafe, you don't need to buy a factory overseas to do international business. You don't need to be big to cross borders, and borders are less important than in the past. People travel more now than ever before. So once upon a time, competition was oriented, it was largely the large guys pulling the strings. Today we have more free trade agreements, and we have commercial agreements whereby I don't have to own you to do business together. I don't have to own a factory in country X. I can franchise, I can license, I can have a marketing cooperation. And so business today is much more in alliance than in the past. We have alliances in transportation, we have alliances in electronics, we have in manufacturing. That moves away from the traditional unipolar control. Instead of having the head office dictate everything, for the first time we have a mutual symbiotic cooperation. And that suggests we have a demise of the traditional model, for which we've been doing most of the research. Most of the research has been about firms, about individual units. But we see today that in addition to having firms, we have networks of firms. And networks open a lot of doors. Networks help with capital, with employment, with various types of assistance. They can be informal networks, they can be formal networks. And these are interesting because they create new demands. Our students who graduate have to go to a world of business and know how to deal with networks. Are we teaching them that? Or are we still researching firms in isolation? So the trend we see is that teams are becoming more and more important, relationships between individuals, and perhaps we want to have our future research follow suit and also do that. If you do, I think it's going to give you more citations. So a very big thank you, and I'm here all day. Feel free to ask questions anytime. And again, thank you for the organizers for doing such a wonderful event.
Thank you so very much, Prof. We appreciate the presentation. Professor Leopold Dana mentioned, or rather asked a question, if we are all on Facebook. The answer is yes, Prof, we are on Facebook. And we are on Facebook Live now. So while you are enjoying the presentations, please like our page later, and there will be gifts. I was just told that there's going to be gifts during the dinner for those who like the page of Connecting Asia. Thank you once again, Prof. The next speaker is a professor of economics and technology management at Faculty of Economics and Administration, University of Malaya. He was the first holder of Khazanah National Chair of Regulatory Studies and a professorial fellow at UNU Merit, and a member of Globalix Scientific Board, advisory member of the Industrial Development Research Center, Zhejiang University. He is also a member of the National Science Research Council Malaysia and an advisory member of the Export Committee of the Ministry of International Trade and Industry Malaysia. He has graduated many PhDs and published hundreds of articles in highly reputable journals, and he has published many books. He has contributed extensively to projects commissioned by UNCTAD, World Bank, ILO, UNIDO, UNESCO, UNDP, and WIPO in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. He had his PhD in economics from Cambridge University in 1992 and was a Rajawadi Fellow at Harvard University in 2014. He is the 2014 recipient of the Celso Furtado Prize from the World Academy of Sciences for his contributions to the field of social sciences, and was only last year awarded Distinguished Professor by the Prime Minister of Malaysia. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the one and only Distinguished Professor, Dr. Raja Rasia, please.
Thank you. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the chair, Professor Amran. I agree with him very much. Having been part of his previous conferences, I've seen it grow and grow almost like a very sharp skew to the top. And also to Dr. Imran, very much the engine behind what Professor Amran had been executing, at least the ideas of how this conference should progress. Now, let me try to discuss something. I'm not sure if the spelling there is right. Mitigating climate change and global warming. I felt, just like the way Professor Leopold presented, that I should not try to bring something seminal here, although the vantage point I think would be different. Let me address some of the key, or rather the salient points involving this issue. The debate on climate change moved from assumptions of finite progress. This whole theory that was begun by this Jesus College professor, Thomas Albert Malthus, population resource gap, and then subsequently by Paul Ehrlich, who in his visit to Delhi, and he has this book, Population Bomb. To him, that's the cause of poverty because of the teeming millions. In the interest of time, I shall not stretch that too far. Then you had this Club of Rome work, Limits to Growth, by Meadows et al. Lots of authors financed by Volkswagen Foundation. They came up, that was the first use of computers to use all sorts of indicators, and they came up with a conclusion that the world can only grow so much. Any attempt to speed up growth would be at the expense of destruction of planet Earth. That's the sort of conclusions they came up with, which actually meant that if